There we go. Okay, I think we are streaming now. So I'm going to let this kind of do its thing. And I am going to record an intro because I think what I'm going to do with this is actually record a I'm going to take all of this and upload it to the extras channel because I thought that might be kind of good to do. So let me do that real quick. So we will start recording. Everybody's streaming in. Hey, everybody. All right, I'm recording now. So hey, everybody, it's Lon.TV. We're going to be doing an installation video today. This is going to go up on the extras channel. Then I'll have a regular review that's a little bit more concise. This is the Akitio node, and there's an affiliate link in the description. And this thing almost is as big as a PC, but what it's designed to do is allow you to use a GPU, a real GPU, with your laptop that might not have one. And I am pushing the limits of my internet connection today also, so I'll be relying on all of you to tell me how I'm streaming. I did reset my router. We're doing 6 megabits per second upstream, which is about 60% of my total connection, if not a little bit more, so we'll see what happens. So what we're going to be doing, though, is, let me switch back to the camera here, is we are going to install a GPU into this huge case. Oh, yes, David Roberts said I need to do my usual disclaimer here. I'm going to be reading off things from the chat room here in case you're watching this on a recording. So I paid for this with my own funds. All the opinions you're about to hear in this stream are my own, and nobody is paying for this review or reviewing this content before it's posted, and they can't because we're doing it live. So we do have this thing here. This is the Akitio node. This is where we'll be installing the GPU. We're going to be first using this Lenovo laptop. This is the Yoga 720, and I reviewed this one the other day, and this is on loan. So when I'm done with this thing, I'm going to send it back to them. And the reason why we're using this is I think this is a really good test case here for how this will work, because there is a Thunderbolt port on the side of this one, but it has no GPU of its own. So we'll be able to see if this thing is actually going to work. And we'll be hooking this thing up in a little bit. I have like no room on this desk. This is like a real science experiment. And then a couple of months ago, we did a thing with a PC build, and I had a whole bunch of GPUs on the desk. So PNY sent this to the show free of charge, and I use this from time to time when we do PC things. And this is a great time to do this. So we got a 1070 GPU, and the reason why this case is so big is because it can accommodate things like this. Now, there's a website that a lot of you told me about called eGPU.io, and they actually, after I bought this, I went there, but they said this Akitio node is kind of like the best one out there at the moment. It is very utilitarian, so it does require a little bit of placement because it is so large, and it doesn't really come apart that easily either. So let's get this thing pulled out here, and I'll show you what is in this thing. So let's pull it out. There we go. So inside we have a Thunderbolt 3 controller, and I should mention that if you're going to do a GPU on your laptop, you need to have a Thunderbolt connector for this to work because you need that bandwidth. And Thunderbolt's maximum transfer rate is like 40 gigabits per second. However, not all Thunderbolt ports are the same, and so we may not see the performance on this one that we might see on some other devices. So we'll be testing out this one first. We'll see how long it takes. Then if I still have time, I took my wife's laptop from upstairs, and she has a run-of-the-mill MacBook. This is the little one that just has the 2 Thunderbolt ports on it. So we'll see how we can work with this thing with that. So we'll be trying that out in the course of this as well. So that is how they are coming together, and we'll see what happens here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you the rest of what we got in here. So there is a, let me switch over here. There is a 400-watt power supply in here, and that's enough to cover what you need for a GPU. You've got the PCI Express power connectors here, so if you have a GPU that requires external power like the one we have, that should work. You got your X16 slot in here, so that will fit that GPU. And again, the reason why this case is so big is that you need to have it actively cooling itself. There's a big fan on here. There's actually a fan, at least there's a hole for a fan on the side here. I guess there's another fan oh, here it is. So on the power supply here on the other side. So you've got a lot of cooling on here, and you need this big of a case to fit the GPU in it. So that is why you don't see a lot of GPUs on tiny laptops like this. It just can't fit, and if they did fit something in there, they wouldn't work all that great. So we'll then be taking out the GPU here. So let's get this thing installed. What's nice about this is that it is a toolless kit, so you don't need to have anything like a screwdriver necessary to get everything put together here. So I'm just going to unscrew this. I hope everybody's doing well. We got 75 people watching, which is great. I didn't expect to see this many folks in the afternoon, but sometimes this is the only time that works for me because I have my 2 kids in the house at night, so it's hard to get things going here. And Expraflex says I talk a lot. Well, I do talk a lot because there's nobody else to talk to, and I figured you don't want to watch a bunch of dead air or listen to a bunch of dead air, so you can listen to my hot air. Hey, Jay Chen is here. Jay Chen's from PNY, and he actually helped me get these GPUs in, so he'll be pleased to see that we're going to be using his as the guinea pig here today. So we'll be taking this 1070, this GTX 1070, and sticking in here. Now, my understanding is that the Windows side of things is a lot simpler than it is on the other side of the equation with the Mac. So the Mac might take us a little, oh great, the Mac might take us a little bit longer to get working here. So we'll do the PC first, and I already lost my screw in here. All right, there we go. And somebody wants to know if I could try a quad HDMI capture card in here. I would if I had one. However, I believe this thing will basically meld any PCI Express card to your laptop. So theoretically, that should work. And let's get that in there. Get this one in here. Get this thing nice and locked down here. Then we'll connect up power. And hopefully we won't let the magic smoke out. And of course, I think that's good enough. We'll put that other screw down over here. I like the minimal amount of screws possible. And this is not sponsored by Dunkin', but I run on Dunkin' today. Delicious. All right, let's go back to here and get this going here. And let's see. Yeah, so Kara O'Mine makes a good point about the PCI Express lanes on these things. And yeah, I don't expect to get the same performance we did on the desktop when we had this installed on that. And actually, this is going to be a really good comparative because we have all the benchmark figures when we did that GPU video back before the holidays. So I'll have that data that I can refer to when we run our benchmarks on it. I think the first thing I'll do is run one of the benchmarks if we get this thing working quickly. And I think what I'm also going to do while I am getting all this going here is also download the drivers for the card, because we need to do that. So let's see, NVIDIA GeForce drivers, get that going. So yeah, this thing is actually not that expensive. I thought I was, you know, it was funny because I hadn't been paying attention to this, and then when I reviewed this, some folks were asking about the eGPUs, and I was waiting for this to come out because I was looking back in like September or so, and it wasn't yet out. And now the other day it was out, and it was affordable. I was surprised that it wasn't like some ridiculous amount of money. So that was really encouraging. So I might be wrong in my approach to this, but my plan is to plug this thing in and just see what happens, and then we'll take it from there. And I cannot get this thing connected to my video system, so I'll end up shooting the screen and rearranging some things. All right, so we've got power connected, the card is installed, so now we're going to take out a few more cables here. And we have in the box are some cable ties, because they probably consider people who are serious about this stuff, they want to keep their cables organized, unlike me. With the power cable here, there's some documentation. I think they have some stickers in the box too, so you can show how happy you are with them. So we'll unwrap this. This is the Thunderbolt cable. So all of the data for this powerful GPU is going to be passed through this little cable here. That is how it works. All right. So let's get this undone there. We'll get this going here. And we'll see what happens. Looks like the stream is holding up, so that's good. LifeTips UK is wondering what graphics card it is. This is a PNY 1070, and this is their slightly overclocked one. I think they call this one I'll get the name of it here for you. This is the Accelerate 1070 that is in this one here. Lots of fans on it. You want to have lots of fans on your graphics card. And Jay Chen makes a good point. Yeah, we'll be plugging a monitor directly into this. So I guess there is, and I was reading up about this a little bit, and I guess there is a way that you can channel the display back to the laptop's main display, but you lose a lot of performance in that process. So we're going to be connecting up directly to the back of this when we get it all installed. So that is definitely what I'm going to do. We might experiment with that later, but we'll see what goes on with that. All right, so let's get this thing plugged in. And hopefully, if you see me disappear, I probably blew out one of the breakers, but that's something that happens from time to time around here. So let me get this thing hooked up. And I might actually rearrange the order of what we have on the table here. Let me move the laptop here. And then I've got that display behind it, and I need to move that around a little bit so you can all see it. So I think I'm going to move that in the process here as well. So let's get that hooked up. I'm going to move the display over so that we can see it on camera. So maybe I'll move it over here. This monitor has been destroyed already, so if it falls again, no big deal. So, all right, so I could probably tilt the camera to see that in a second. So we got that going. And now I got to find my HDMI cable that is going into my splitter here, which I think is connected to the computer, which isn't working at the moment. So we'll unhook that. And I will hook this up into the back of the graphics card. All right, so that is connected. And now we just need to connect up the Thunderbolt. And I think we'll be ready to go. So let's do that. All right. Very short cable. These tend to be a little short because you can't do too much data bandwidth on longer cables. All right, so we'll plug that into the Thunderbolt port on the side of the laptop here. And I need to make, of course it's on the wrong side, but let me rearrange it again here. Sorry, everybody, that was a waste of time. All right, so now I'll plug this in over here. Now I think what I'm going to do actually is maybe boot up the device here before we plug it into the computer. So let's flick the switch on this and see what happens. Where did the switch go? There it is, okay. All right, so it's powered up. We have no smoke yet, so that's a good thing. And now what I want to do is show you what the computer says when I plug it in. So let me see if I can get that angled that way. And I'm just going to open the folder there. And I'll get the camera zoomed in for you so you can see what the screen says when it goes through. Now you can see why I try to edit so much when I do a video, because it takes often a long time to get everything situated in the way you want it to be situated in. So let's get that organized there. All right. Yes, no smoke, but we still have to plug it into the computer. So here we go. I'm attaching the Thunderbolt cable to the Thunderbolt port. There we go. All right, we're connected. And let's see what happens here. I'll zoom out. So the fans are definitely kicking on now. So that's a good sign. And then the computer is telling me, let me zoom back in here. I should have got another camera out today. The computer is telling me the Thunderbolt devices were attached. I have to approve them, so I'll say OK. And this is a standard thing that happens with Thunderbolt connections, is that. So now we're seeing a message here about connecting the Akitio node. I'm going to say connect all the time. And I'll hit OK here. Somebody said I was the sexiest man alive. Well, I appreciate that. Okay. So it's undergoing additional steps here. And actually, what I want to see is, let's go into the device manager real quick and see if we can see what's going on here. So let's go properties, device manager. Okay, so it doesn't have any drivers yet, but that's okay because we're going to install the driver package that I just downloaded on here. So let's do that real quick. Oops. And by the way, Jay, you'll appreciate this. I've been using the little external PNY drive here. So one of the tricks that I have, because I review so many PCs, is that I put all my Steam stuff and a bunch of other things on this little, you probably can't see it now, let me switch back, onto this little SSD. This is 480 gigabytes. It's quick enough to do all that stuff, so I don't have to keep reinstalling games every time I put things in, and that's been really helpful. All right, so we're just going to let the drivers go and see what happens there. So far so good, everybody. We haven't blown up the computer yet, or the GPU. You can see the fans are going there. So that is cool. So let me check some comments here while I'm waiting for these drivers to install. And then we'll come back to it and see what happens. Now, I don't see anything on my display yet, but it could just be because it doesn't have a driver installed. So let's wait for that to finish up. And I need to make sure that I got everything hooked up properly. Yeah, it's hooked up. Okay. I got this crazy splitter scaler thing going on. So let's take a look here. So Moose Cat Deluxe wants to know if you can run a Vive or an Oculus off of it. Yes, possibly. The GPU is fast enough for that. The question is whether or not it will be fast enough on this computer, because one of the challenges that I've been reading about is that not all Thunderbolt ports are created equal. So right now we've got the whole big thing connected in through that little cable right there. And from what I've been reading, even on the Mac, so a great example on the Mac is that the left-hand ports have more lanes, PCI Express lanes, more data throughput on the left-hand side of the computer than they do on the right-hand side of the computer. So you have to figure out which one is the right one to plug it into. The good news is that my device manager now is reporting, let's zoom in here, a GTX, get in a little bit closer. Sorry for the crappy camera work, everybody. Oh no, runtime error. All right, hopefully. Well, it is reporting that we have an NVIDIA GTX 1070 installed now. Let me get that over there. And it wants me to restart the computer. So let's restart the computer real quick, and we will see what happens next here. I did not expect this to go smoothly, so I'm sure we will need to do that. But it needs a restart here, so let me just do a quick reboot, and hopefully when it comes back up, we'll be in good shape here. Now, theoretically, because the Mac supports Thunderbolt in Windows, this should work on the Mac in Windows, but the Mac itself natively now supports this with some beta drivers, but it's a little bit more work to get it working. So if we have time, basically I have until my wife makes her way home with the kids, and I gotta cook dinner for everybody. That's what I do here. I like cooking. You know what I did? I did the Blue Apron thing, which I've been enjoying, because I don't know how to cook anything, but we'll see what goes on there. So let me go. Okay, good. This is a good sign. I've got video now. You'll see this on, let me pull up camera 4. Oh, we lost it. We'll probably get it back here in a second. All right, so I'm going to just log into the computer here. Yeah, they're good. We're good. We got video. Now, it might look a little washed out because I have it hooked up through this crazy scaler and all this other stuff, but there you go. So this is coming out now of the eGPU. So that's a good sign. Now what I want to do, it looks like it's mirrored, so let's go and take a look at our displays. The helpful thing is that this laptop has an 1080p display, so things are the same. And if I do detect here, we should, oh, it's interesting. Huh. So it's funny, it's saying it hasn't detected another display, yet we're getting this video output. So let's go back to the device manager. And if anyone has done this before and wants to help me, I'm more than willing to accept suggestions on there. Wow, 133 people watching right now. This is wonderful. All right, so let's go over to device manager. And I think what I'm going to do is try to reinstall those NVIDIA drivers, because I'm not seeing all the stuff in my thing here. So the 1070 now is showing up as a device, so that's a good sign. So what I want to do now, though, is just go back to my downloads folder and just reinstall that, just to be safe here. So let's just reinstall the whole thing. And we'll come back and see where it goes. All right, so I'm going to take another few minutes here. Big drivers. So what do we got here? Yeah, so this is not a Mac that we're on right now, just so everybody knows. We just have, this is a Yoga, it looks like a Mac just because of where it's situated, but this is the Yoga 720 that I reviewed a couple of days ago, right over here. If I need to later, I'll hook up the other cameras and get more angles here. it's funny, these live streams take a lot of preparation because there's all these things to hook up, and it gets more complicated when I got all this other stuff going on right now. So, what's weird though is I don't know. I'm not sure which system is actually generating the video right now. I'm assuming it's coming out of the eGPU, but I don't know if it's backhauling it to the display here or if it's mirroring the video on the NVIDIA and on the Intel. I don't know. So we'll let this thing finish doing its thing here. So we got people from all over the world watching, which is awesome. Yeah, so Casimir Feldman makes a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where at the moment you're looking at a lot of stuff to make this work. So you've got, of course, they have to have the laptop, and then you need the Thunderbolt port and all the other stuff to make it work. So there is a lot involved here, but it's cheaper than buying a whole new computer. So you can buy this for $279 US and the GPU of your choice for different prices. It'll work with the AMD stuff also. So you can do these or something else, and then plug it in and be off with it. I think there's, to some degree, might be some value to this, especially for people that don't have a lot of space. That might be of interest to people. So that could be an area where this might have some value because you could have the little laptop and then this smaller case that has a pretty powerful GPU in it. So you don't have to have two computers with you in college and then just one of these. I guess that might be one area where it works. And I was just curious just to try this to see if it's even going to function correctly. So, but looks like it's working. We're just not getting all the NVIDIA stuff going yet. So I want to get this driver installed, and hopefully it doesn't crash on me this time, and we'll see where we go from there. So Robert Rosenfield wants to know if I'm going to cover any of the new TriCaster stuff from NewTek. I would love to. In fact, I'm on my TriCaster right now, and what's great about the TriCaster is that while I am streaming, I am recording, so I can upload a kind of a condensed version of this live stream to the extras channel when I'm done here. So they just came out with a new TriCaster that is crazy. It's got 4K inputs, and it can support 60 frames per second in real time, doing all of the stuff that I do, like you usually see me do on the channel here. So I could, for example, let me pull up one of these background things that I got. Let's see, there we go. Let me start this. So I can do stuff like this in real time. So the new TriCaster, oops, we just lost video signal on the computer. The new TriCaster can actually do all that in real time, 4K at 60 frames per second. The only problem with it, it's about $14,000 or $15,000, so a little bit out of my budget, but it's actually pretty reasonable if you're a broadcaster to have a piece of equipment that's portable like that can do that amount of video. I think that's pretty remarkable. And I'm really happy about TriCaster has something called NDI, which allows you to transmit images from your cameras over your local network. And when I was working on that Synology security camera thing that I did for them, I had a security camera upstairs monitoring my front walkway because they wanted to have a front door in the imagery there. And it's making me nervous. This thing keeps clinking on and off. So I was able to actually have a camera up there connected to a laptop. I had one of those USB Magwell things, and it was beaming the 1080p video down here just through my network. In fact, I used one of those Mocha adapters to bridge all of it. It was crazy, but it worked. It was like, I was like, wonder if this is going to work, and it worked. So NDI is a really awesome technology. Dave for Schmups asked if NewTek is the same company that made the video toaster. Yep, it's the same exact company. It's actually, oh, it looks like we're good here. It's kind of like how everything came together from that product. That was what became the TriCaster. So really good stuff. Tony C wants to know, how did the Cerevo work out? It worked out pretty nicely. I reviewed it. I'm not using it now to broadcast just because I prefer to use the TriCaster, partly because I paid so much money for the darn thing, but it just I know it works. I always like to go with things that works, but it does seem to be working pretty well. And Dillier Daylan notes that Thunderbolt 1 also supports external GPUs. That's absolutely correct. In fact, what's cool, let me show you my little adapter here. So I have the MacBook Pro adapter. So this is the USB Type-C Thunderbolt connector. The USB Type-C connector version has an adapter here to go to the old type. And I can just plug this into the back of this unit and use it with my Thunderbolt 1 and 2 devices. So that should work. Once we get everything working on the little MacBook down there, I might try that as one of the things that I investigate here. So I'm just going to get the, maybe I'll skip the GeForce experience for now. And I'm still at a loss as to how my computer is displaying things right now. So let me go in and see what I have now on my, okay, so now I have the NVIDIA control panel. And I think what I'll do is let me shoot over to what I'm looking at here so you can see. Oh, thank you, Aggressive Fun, for your contribution via Super Chat. You will get noted on the weekly wrap-up next week also. And if you, I think you wanted me to have you listed a certain way, so just email me and let me know how you want to be recognized, but I appreciate that. So let's go back over to, oh, and I missed Zam before. Zam, thank you for your contribution as well. I got to move my Super Chat window up. I don't want to miss anybody. So let me put that into a better spot so I can see it. All right, there we go. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do, I think I can just turn off the Intel GPU through here, or the Intel, yeah, so let's just go over to high performance NVIDIA processor and apply that. And what's funny, so it looks like we must be routing the video back through the Thunderbolt cable because that did not disable the screen, the on-screen thing here. So I think what I'm going to do is just try out the 3D Mark test first, and we'll just see what happens. Now, I know how slow it will run on the Intel graphics, so this will be a good indicator of how this thing is going to perform. So let's go load up a little 3D Mark action here. I like the 3D Mark stuff. They do a nice job on this. And we'll launch that. It's going to take a minute to install everything. Oops. All right. And Zam, when he made his super chat, said to go get another coffee, and I would love to. You know what the problem is? I can make coffee upstairs. I have to drive like 10 minutes round trip to get to anything from where I am. So I grabbed one on my way back from the UPS place. So I have a P.O. box now where I get packages delivered, because I used to have them delivered to my day job, but now I don't have a day job anymore. I do this full time. So I still don't like the idea of things sitting out in my front porch when I'm not home. So that was why I did that. Paul Peevler notes, and correctly notes, that we will have a significant performance degradation on the Thunderbolt 1 and 2, absolutely. So I think Thunderbolt 1 is 10 gigabits max, so it would be a 25% potentially of what we'll see here in a minute, hopefully. And what else we got here? Does USB-C have bandwidth for external GPUs? The answer to that is no, and that's going to be one of the things I'll focus on when I do the main review, is the fact that you have to make sure you've got the little Thunderbolt thing on your computer. Otherwise, this is not going to work. It's not designed for, well, it just won't work because it's not the same thing. But USB-C does not have the bandwidth. So you need to have a laptop with Thunderbolt. So this is not going to be a solution where if you got one of those $200 laptops, that is going to do it for you. And even that $500 Acer that we looked at the other day with the GPU on board, that won't work either. It does have a USB Type-C port, but it's not a Thunderbolt USB Type-C. And I think consumers are going to get very confused by all of this. And even on this computer, I got I have one of those adapters. It's already plugged in, but I have a couple other adapters here. I've been collecting these USB-C adapters. So this is like another one where you can get HDMI out and USB and power going in and everything. The USB port on it works, the power works, but not the HDMI on the Lenovo. So Lenovo wants or at least this Lenovo wants a direct USB Type-C to Type-C adapter. Otherwise, it doesn't work. All right, so 3D Mark is up and running. And let's just run Time Spy. What the heck, right, everybody? That's the killer test. That's the DirectX 12 test. And I'm going to have it run the demo also, so we can just see how it all works. So let's go cut over to camera 4 and let that load up. Now, I think this is going to run slower than it should because I am getting video output on my laptop screen. And what might happen here, if my theory is correct, it might disable the laptop screen if it does kick on the GPU. So let's see what happens when this goes on. And Keyburn says a whole 10 minutes. Yeah, so you know what's funny is when I go to when I go to New York City, where I stay in New York, I have a Starbucks on one block, like right around the corner, and a Dunkin' Donuts on the other block. It's like, it's heaven to me. I can walk out the door and get a coffee. It's so crazy. I grew up in this area, so I've never had like the conveniences of going to something by walking. There was one day I found our local YMCA was in walking distance. They had a vending machine. That was like a revelation to me, to be able to go out and buy a pack of M&Ms or something at a vending machine. Yeah, please don't spam your channel in here, guys. That's just annoys everybody. All right, so here we go. Time Spy is loading up. Well, it looks like it's running pretty smoothly here. So this would not run like this if we were using the internal GPU for sure. So this is pretty good. Now, usually I see the frame rate at the bottom, but I think it runs the demo first, and then it kind of runs through its test with the thing below. But this is smooth. I mean, I don't know if it's 60 frames per second, but this is a really tough test for most GPUs. So this looks pretty good, I must say. And while it's running here, I'll cut back to my other camera. Sorry, oops, wrong button, camera 2. So you can see here it's running on the display, and then we're getting it on here. And of course, I'm splitting this and shooting it back to the TriCaster so you can see what this is here. All right. Yeah, one of these days, folks, I'm actually at the point I'm going to hire somebody. So when we do a live stream, we can have a real-time moderator. And you know, my problem is I need somebody that can do everything I can do, and that's hard to find at the price I'm able to pay. So, because I want somebody to be the chat moderator, be like a producer, and all the other stuff. Let me cut back to the thing here, and that's hard to find. So I'm going to be looking though. There's some pretty smart kids at the local high school that I can probably get in here. Because one of the things I would love to do is like a weekly live stream where I have a set number of topics that I want to go over and kind of go from there. And while this is running, I'm going to pull up my my notes, my benchmark page. But this is working pretty good. I know Jay Chen is in the chat. It looks like the GPU is working pretty well in an external enclosure. And I guess my next step here is to figure out how to disable it running to the laptop screen and see, after this test is done, and see if we get better performance out of this when it's all over. And yeah, that fan noise you're hearing is actually, I think it's actually the fan on the casing that you're hearing, if you're hearing any fan noise. The GPU is pretty quiet. Well, if anyone wants to volunteer right now to be a moderator, I can try to promote you, I think. So let me know. Manage moderators. Oh, I could manage moderators. So, hey, Life Tips, if you want to be a moderator, it's all you. Let me know. Say the word. I will promote you right now, because that'll help. John Richardson wants to know if my TriCaster Mini power supply is noisy. You know, it was a little noisy, but not something that would pick up on microphone. Mine's been pretty good. All right, so Life Tips, you are a moderator now. Thank you. And professional commenter, I'll put you in there too. And just behave yourselves. Don't get too crazy. I like freedom of speech, so people can, they can criticize me. That's okay. All right. Yeah, no, mine doesn't groan when I turn it on. It just comes up pretty quietly. I'm actually really, it was funny. I had, yeah, John, you may want to call UTech about that if you've got a lot of fan noise, because it was funny because I had looked at that 4K Blackmagic thing that was like a freaking wind tunnel, and when I got the TriCaster in, it was very quiet. It does. I will hear some of that on the in the background, but if I have my mic configured in a way you don't hear it now, but it's yeah, I have to switch to some cardioid lavaliers, I think, to get better audio quality. And Zam just volunteered to be a moderator too, so you got it, and thank you for yet another super chat contribution. That's very generous of you. I can buy 2 cups of coffee now, so thank you. Yeah, John, I remember the quick cast thing. Absolutely. I would call them back and just see what's going on. It could be that maybe, you know, the environment it's in is getting too hot and maybe that's impacting it somehow. I don't know. Mine's just kind of in the open air here, so it's been really, it doesn't get confined at all. All right, so we're looking at about 26 frames per second or so on this. And this is not an unusual score to get on this benchmark. Actually, I'm impressed that this is running as smoothly as it is, given how crazy this benchmark is. So that is a pretty good score. Yeah, Dillier, it's a crazy thing going on right now. Here's the thing, like, I am of the opinion that I want people's opinions to be out in the open because we have we have a state constitution, as all states do here in the U.S., and our Constitution has many of the same things that the federal Constitution has, but one of the things that they added was that you have the freedom to speak, but you're responsible for your words. And I think that's a very important component of free speech. And one of the ways that society, I think, advances is knowing what is not what society wants. And people have to have the freedom to say those things. And it's funny, I had a discussion once with somebody from a country that had an authoritarian rule for a good portion of that person's life, and they could not understand why I was okay with people saying religiously offensive things to me. I'm not a very religious person, but you know, nevertheless, there are things that could be said that might be very offensive to me. But I don't like when people say those things, but they have a right to say them because I think it's important for those feelings to be out in the open versus having them be shuttered somewhere. So that's the end of my political commentary for today. So yeah, this is the CPU test, and I expected this portion to go a little slower because now we're going off that little mobile i5 in this thing. Now the fan on the laptop is running, partly because we're killing the CPU right now. All right. Yeah, I'm surprised this is working as well as it is. This one's running slow again just because this is the CPU test and it's going off that little mobile i5 on this thing. So this one is going to run a little slower. And I think we'll be getting our score. Let's see. All right, our score is 3401, which is much better than this thing would have without the GPU plugged into it. And to recap, if you're coming in after the fact here, let me just get myself organized. I'm going to get this Mac ready in a second. If you are coming in late to the game, our science experiment today is hooking up this little Yoga 720 laptop here with no GPU. We are connecting to this big box, which all it does is hosts a GPU or another PCI Express card, and it's channeling all of that through this Thunderbolt cable here, Thunderbolt 3 cable. So the GPU is external to the laptop. And we just ran a TimeSpy benchmark, which is the one I run on all of my high-end stuff. And we got a score of 3,401. And let's see here. So let me go over to my results from my prior testing. And I tested this very same GPU on a i3 desktop machine not too long ago. And so we'll be able to get a good idea. So let me go over my other window here. I've got too many computers. I got a computer on my lap. I got two on the desk. Things are crazy. I got too many computers. All right. When I was a kid, having a computer was a big deal. And now you can get them for $20 on Amazon. And so I have a drawer full of Raspberry Pis. So how about that? All right, so let me just go back over here. So surprisingly, this actually worked exceptionally well for the fact that really all I did was plug it in and install the GeForce drivers. That was it. So what I want to do next now, first of all, I want to look at the score. And then what I want to do is figure out how to get the video not to go back into the laptop, because I think that is, first of all, it's nice that it does this by default without having to tell it to do anything else, because I think if you are in the college dorm environment, like I had mentioned at the outset, you could come home, plug in your GPU, and not have to have another monitor. So that's kind of a cool thing, right? So let's go over to TimeSpy. Now, on the i3 build that we had, we got a score of 4,818. Now, that was an i3 desktop machine, so full power on the CPU and everything. We got about, and the graphics scores should be consistent if we're getting the full amount of bandwidth on here. So I don't have this in a way I can pull it up on screen at the moment, but we had 38 frames per second on the i3 build. Let me go back to our results here. On here, we're 10 frames per second lower at 27. On graphics 2, we had 33.9 frames per second on the desktop machine, same exact GPU. On this one, we have 24 frames per second. And the CPU test on the desktop i3 was 7.75 frames per second. This one was 5.43. So definitely a slight reduction in performance, although, again, my theory is that because it is piping video back to the laptop, that could be a contributing factor here. So what I'm going to do now is just try to look up, maybe one of you can help me with this. Let's look up how to make it so it doesn't shoot the video back to the, to the computer there. So I'll jump through here and see. Let me go back through the list here. And I got another super chat in from Fernie Lopez. Thank you very much for your contribution. Much appreciated. I will be, Dilly, I'll be testing out some games in a second. I want to do one more benchmark with the internal display disabled. And let's see here. And somebody says my audio is echoing. Is anybody hearing an echo? Check my audio mixer, make sure I'm not doubling up audio on you guys. No, I've only got one channel going here. If anyone else is hearing the echo, please let me know about that. That would be appreciated. All right. So Tony Solanda says, what you pay for this thing, you might as well. Well, actually, not too much, because the cost on the case here is about $279, and then you have to add the GPU. So, you have to have the laptop. So, I mean, there's certainly some. You can certainly do better with a single lower cost gaming PC than this whole crazy configuration. But I think there's actually a lot of interest in having an external GPU for people that have these tiny little laptops. This is that Yoga 720 I reviewed a little while ago. So I'm pretty sure there is some stuff there. Let's see. All right, everybody's saying fine here. So if somebody suggests maybe there's two audio windows open, that might do it. And actually, you would hear an echo because it doesn't always line up one-to-one on those things. So I'm just going to, first of all, I want to log out of my wife's account on her computer so I don't totally screw up her account. The nice thing about being the IT manager of the household is that I have control over the computers. So if something, why is she still running this version of Excel on here? Oh my gosh, I gotta talk to get her upgraded. All right, so let's take a look now at the laptop. So I'm going to see if I can find a way to disable the internal GPU or the internal graphics here. It might be something in the NVIDIA control panel. Yeah, John, I don't think there is any NDI stuff for Linux yet, but I'm sure they're going to get there pretty soon. All right, so I have, yeah, so it's shown, okay, so this is, yeah, so this is the external display. That's also a Lenovo display. So let's see what we have for, interesting. Yeah, so it's only showing, it only thinks it's going out to the external display, yet it's looping back in. That's really interesting. All right, so we need to do a little research on this. So the monitor right now, everybody is plugged into here. And I read somewhere that the NVIDIA drivers will pipe it back through your main display. So that's what we need to research right now, is to how to get that to not happen. So there's a site called eGPU.io. Maybe I'll go on the computer here and just look it up with you all watching. So there's a site called eGPU.io, which has been my go-to site here. So eGPU.io. So let's take a look at what's going on. Yes, I'm running Edge on here because I got this computer is like completely refreshed. It's on its default installation here, so that was what I went with. So let's go over to Get Started, and we'll see the implementation page here. Actually, that's not what I'm looking for. Go back to. All right, so Windows 10 and Mac OS. Okay, it's one of those things where you gotta. Okay, so run with graphics processor. Oh, okay, interesting. Yes, it's one of those things though. I went into the NVIDIA control panel. We completely disabled the internal. Well, I guess that's the case, right? So how do we keep it from piping the? Let me just do a Google search on this. But let me see what you all are saying. See if anybody else has found anything to speed that up. Yeah, so if I go over here to the display settings, and if I go over to detect, it's saying it didn't detect another display. So it's really doing like a straight up mirror here through the thing here. So let's go show only on, let's see. Okay, so that's, all right, so something just happened here. So I was able to get, there is something happening here. So let's try this now. Let me go back to, let's revert. And I'm going to say only show on 2. All right, good. So now, okay, so now we've got the laptop is off and the main display is the only thing on. So let's see if that gives us a performance difference here. And what I'll do here is run that time spy test without the demo running, so we won't have to sit through all the whole thing again. All right, so let's go back to benchmarks. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to understand this. So we'll have a better understanding as to when this goes through here. So let's see. I guess you have to run the demo. Okay. Oh, here we go. Yep, the demo is forced. Okay, so we'll just run it again here. Can you imagine somebody's getting like 32,000 on that test? That is crazy. All right, so let's hit run. And then after this, we should have an idea as to whether or not the internal display is impacting its performance at all. So, all right, so I just lost my signal on the thing. There it goes, it's coming back. Maybe. I have a scaler running, so that's, maybe it's having a hard time negotiating the signal here. Let's see. If not, I'll put it, there we go. Okay, we're good. And we're not going to know whether or not we're getting better performance until the test finishes running, but we'll see how it comes together here. See it working? The internal screen is off and the monitor is on. Kevin Bragdon, thank you very much for your super chat contribution. And if you're wondering if it's working, at least on the PC side of things. And what we're doing now is we're just running a benchmark test to just see if disabling the internal display, which was mirroring the output of the video, is going to give us better performance. And we will find out in just a few minutes after the test is done running. So the CPU has an i5-7200U Razor. That is it's a Skylake processor inside. And that's what I'm seeing on a lot of these laptops. They all seem to have the same thing there. And the reason why I run the 3D Mark is that I run this for all of the stuff that I test here on the channel, so this is a good comparative for me just to see how it all comes together. And it looks really cool too. I really like some of the stuff that they do on there. It's all these little, so the case is, it's not the most beautifully designed piece of hardware. I'm getting a lot of paint flakes from it on the desk here. So industrial design is not their strong suit. In fact, you can see the paint kind of isn't all together in the back there either. So they were spray painting through the case and it got inside, but not all the way. So a little bit of a mess in here, actually. It's like a bunch of paint in there. Not very well painted. I think this is doing better than it was before, because if I'm not mistaken, we were getting about 20 or so frames per second, and now we're seeing about 33 or so. So I think we are seeing better performance now that the internal display is disabled. Yeah, so Paul, I guess that's right. From my understanding is that you'll get a max of 32 gigabits per second over the Thunderbolt connection. And then how it's configured on the computer also obviously has an impact on it as well. So it's going to be a hit or miss thing depending on the laptop that you're using. That's why I'm eager to try the Mac out here just to see if that, what will happen with that. Actually, this Mac is running a Skylake processor. Yeah, we're getting about 27, 28 in here. It might end up being a pretty close score when it's done. We'll see. I want to say this is running better now. It feels faster than it did the last time, but we'll know for sure when the score comes in. There's some talk of different enclosures out there, and I found this out after I bought this, but this is the one that the eGPU IO site recommends right now as probably the most compatible, and it seems to be working pretty nicely here. I'm pretty impressed with this. And now we're going to do the CPU test, and it's actually behaving a little differently now. It's resetting the display. So you see, I just went dark there. So there's definitely something different happening in a good way now. And this test will probably run about the same as it did before, because this is mostly a CPU thing right now. And then after this is over with, we'll open up a game and see how the games work on it. And Kieran Mine makes a very good point, because now that these NVIDIA Pascal drivers are available, it means that you can get NVIDIA cards working in Hackintoshes as well. So that might give you better performance than Apple's delivering at the moment. And Razor, what we're using now is the Lenovo Yoga 720, although I would not be surprised if the TDP of the processor is also at 15 watts. I can check. Yeah, I'm really surprised, Paul, that they don't use NVIDIA GPUs. I know they had a problem a number of years ago with, I actually had one of these laptops. They had a faulty NVIDIA GPU on every single MacBook Pro that was made in some span of time. Like they were all gonna die. And mine did, and many others did as well, and Apple recalled them all. And I think they put NVIDIA on the hook for that. All right, so here's our test, and it is better. If I recall, I should have written it down for when we ran it before, so maybe somebody can post what I did there for the last score. But now we're at 4,039, and yes. So let me go back to my prior notes here. Give me 1 second here, because I think now that we're getting pretty much the same performance I had on that low-end computer here. So let me go back over to my my notes here. Okay, so if I go back to the time spy test from when we ran this on the i3 computer, we have a score of 4,818. However, frame rate is what we're looking at here. So we want to see if the bandwidth of the graphics card is functional. And the i3 computer had 38 frames per second. On test 1, we're seeing 34. Test 2 was 33 on the i3 desktop computer. Same exact GPU that we have in here. So this GPU is the exact one I used on that i3 build. And we're getting scores here of 31 frames per second versus 33. So this is like really pushing as close as it did on the main desktop computer with an external GPU. So that is really cool. That's awesome. So I'm pleased with that. And I need to just get this Mac configured here. It was one thing I forgot to do was set up my own account on my wife's computer. So I'm going to do that so I don't totally screw up her thing there. And we'll get that going. And I'm quite pleased with that score. So that's really good. So I mean, as far as I can tell, this working with the display on the laptop off is about as fast as it was when this card, the same exact card, was plugged into an i3-based Skylake desktop machine. So as far as bandwidth going to the card, we're pretty darn close. Now, I don't know if every laptop will have that level of performance. It depends on the speed of the Thunderbolt port, but it looks like what we have here on this one is pretty unimpeded, which is good. And so as everyone's noting here, we saw about a 10% drop, give or take, in performance. So that was a pretty good bump by just disabling the internal display. So I'm going to make note of that in for my review, because I think that's important for people to know. And it seems like from the Windows side of things, this is a really easy thing. I mean, honestly, I was expecting that we'd be spending a lot more time trying to get it to work. What I did, in case you're coming in late, was I put the card in, I hooked up the Thunderbolt cable to the laptop, it detected the display, it got some basic drivers installed. I did download the NVIDIA drivers off the website like you would for any card you buy from NVIDIA, installed those drivers, rebooted, and voila, here we are. And now we're getting some really good scores here. So I am pleased with that. So what I'm going to do next is go over to my GeForce Experience and log into that. I like to use the GeForce Experience just to have it configure my games for me, because I like a good starting point. And it will also help me because I have in the past done some prior testing, and I have some other saved video files of the GTA 5 benchmark test, because that's a good kind of a real world simulation here. I'm just looking at the screen while it's going, so I have to log into my account here. So let's take some. Oh, sorry, GIMP lectures. Yeah, roughly 10% between seeing the card and the desktop versus the Thunderbolt 3. And yeah, so we had basically a 10 frame per second increase in performance by turning off the internal display, because that was eating up some of the bandwidth on the wire here. All right. You know what I might do? I might come back and do a second stream with a Windows installation, because I maybe wanted to set up a Windows to Go thing on this Mac and just see how it works with that. All right, so I'm going to log into my account on here. Get that going. My phone out for my second factor here. All right, and get that done. All right, so now what I'm going to do, now it is time to get our game controller out here and see what goes on there. Technosaur was suggesting I start a gaming channel, but you know, I think the gaming channel thing, for me at least, is not something that would work for me. Because I think what the problem I have on, if I were to do a gaming channel, I guess I got to start the game here and then jump out of it, is that I don't have a, there's just so many gaming channels out there, it's hard to differentiate right now. It's a very tough market. All right, so we're gonna take a look at what's going on screen here. I have to start the game first before we can do anything else. Let's go back over to, there we go. All right, so let that do its thing here. We'll log into the social club. I guess they're now syncing your, the only time I play this game is when I'm doing a computer test, so I never actually play this game too often. But I do want to run the benchmark. What I like about Grand Theft Auto 5 is that you can really push the system quite a bit with it. Oh, we've been going for an hour here already. How about that? All right, so it looks like it's got some issues with my firewall. Allow access. All right, so let's pop into the game here. You might see some clipping on screen just because I got this crazy scaler thing going. Now it's funny, I haven't seen anybody chat in like the last 2 or 3 minutes. I wonder if my thing died out here. Let me refresh my screen here. All right, so we'll confirm that. So Meshi of You has an XPS 13 with Thunderbolt 3, and he sees an even larger performances in Thunderbolt 3 versus in desktop, even with dual core. Yeah, I think there was some talk on that eGPU site about the Dell XPS in particular having some issues with this. So this is why it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. I'm actually pleased that it's working as well on here as it has been so far. So that's been good. Let's go into the graphics settings here. And turn VSync off. And let's see. It looks like it kind of set itself up here automatically already, so that's good. Let me just apply the changes real quick. And what I'm going to do is just pop out and then go back in, because I think now I can get the GeForce experience to just recommend stuff to me. And I kind of like that because they tune it for what you might decide to do. So let's go back over to the GeForce experience. What's wrong? What the heck is this? That's cool. It tells you what's using the WinStore app.exe. What the heck is that? I wonder if that's the GeForce experience. And what I'm going to do here is go over. There we go. So we're using optimal settings now. We'll just restart the game. And we'll go back in. Let's see what happens there. So we'll do that. All right, so I'll take a few more questions while we're waiting for this to load up here. Zam is watching at work in the background. It's good audio, right? Just have something going on in the background there. Paul Paul says that the CPU will have an effect. If you have a 15 watt versus 45 watt CPU, then they're both right. So the power going to the CPU does make a difference here too, I'm sure. And Dillier says one of the best to use an eGPU with is the 2016 MacBook Pro 15-inch, which is what I have. Maybe I should go get that and just boot it up into Windows and see what happens. I might try that later. Let's see. Professional commenter wants to know how my Nintendo Switch is holding up. It's actually holding up quite well. I've been really enjoying the Nintendo Switch. I think it's going to be a really good platform for a lot of these indie games because it's got an established user base and there's going to be millions of these things kicking around. So I think there's going to be something good there. So I'm quite pleased with it. All right, we'll let this load up here. Yeah, I'm not sure on mine about the speed there. I'd have to get one of my other cards out and see what happens. This apparently would work with an AMD card also. It works with anything. Actually, I think you could plug in, for example, capture cards into this if you really wanted to get crazy. So I think this is basically just wiring up a PCI Express slot to your computer. And the old version of Thunderbolt supported that also, which is pretty neat. The game still takes as long to load, but that's par for the course with this one. All right, so let's see if I can get the frame rate thing up on the corner there. So we'll say, oops, I don't want the camera. I want the FPS counter over here. There we go. All right, back, done. All right, so now we're going off the GeForce recommended settings here, and we're doing, kind of all over the place. But that's usually the case with this game. So we can see how this is running. But much better, of course, than it would on its own without a GPU built in. So we're seeing 39 frames per second. And I'm going to run that benchmark, also the benchmarking that they have here too, so we can see how that goes. And this game is one of those games that really pushes both sides of the equation, the CPU and the GPU. So that will have an impact here. I don't usually drive this bad in person, by the way, in case you're wondering. One of the things that impresses me about this game is the detail, on everything. The city, even the flight stuff. It's just pretty amazing what they did here. And this game's like still relevant this far out. It's pretty crazy. All right, so let's see. I'm going to just hop out of here. I like to. There we go. I like to blow myself up and then hop out at the hospital where it's better lighting. So let's take a look at that and see how it does. Take some more questions while we're waiting for my character to leave the hospital here. Let's see. I think he's there. He is. Good as new. Look at that. Like it never happened. So we'll pop out over here. Yeah, so we're seeing good frame rates here. This is 30 frames per second, and this is, again, the GeForce Experience settings, so you could tweak it. But I wanted to put this, video memory exceeded. Well, that's weird. Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? Let's take a look at that. Let's go over to the settings here. This card has like 8 gigs of RAM on it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's got 8 gigs. Why would it say it's exceeded? Oops. All right, so let's run the benchmark here, see how we do on that. All right, so let's take some more questions while it's loading up here. Gimpy Lecture says, I ordered a GPD Pocket. Yeah, I did do that, and it doesn't have LTE on it, unfortunately. So yeah, you won't get the wireless without having to hook up something to it. You know, what's funny is I'm looking at that thing like, hey, it's pretty cool, but I don't know if I would use it. But I know a lot of people are interested in it, so I'm going to get one in and we'll try it out. Life Tips wants to know, how long did it take me to download GTA? I got it from Steam, and the reason why I get the Steam games is that I can have them, and I mentioned this earlier, I can have them installed on this little SSD here, and I can move it around to different computers, so I don't have to download it every time. So that's been really helpful. So I have like Doom and a couple other games that I usually just test things with, just installed on this, and then all my other benchmarking software, as much as I can get to work on here, I've put on there, and it's been pretty good. Now, I have to go back to my videos that I recorded. I'm going to do, when I do the review, I'll do a comparison here. But from what I'm seeing here, this is running about what I remembered it running on that i3 computer that I was testing it with. So it's playable. I mean, if you're looking to save space, you might do it here. I mean, you're adding this bulk, but you can have a little tiny laptop that can push out nice graphics like we're seeing here. So that's pretty good. So that SSD has 480 gigabytes. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like, I'm still blown away by these 128 gigabyte micro SD cards. That just blows my mind. This is the test that I like. I think this is the one that runs the longest. So you have this bridge thing, and then the airplane comes, and it follows the airplane through. And I'll have to check and just see if it's an apples to apples on the settings. So I think what I did on the GPU shootout was I had the same settings for every card to see what the incremental increase was. So I may want to set this card up. I have to go back to that video and look for it. But you would never get this kind of frame rate on this laptop without the GPU for sure. So this is pretty good. And here's the setup, everybody, in case you're wondering. So this little tiny laptop with this big heavy case, which weighs more than the laptop does, is powering all of this. William's wondering if the SSD is an M2. I don't believe so. I did a review of it. So if you go and look for a PNY SSD on my channel, you can see a full review of it and get the performance on it. It's working well for me for this kind of stuff. So Astifu was wondering if I changed the reward levels on Patreon. No, I haven't changed anything. Two of those people who contributed at the gold level did it through the tip jar. So that was, those folks hit that threshold, so that's why they're there. So I think next month we'll be back to 2 that we had. Some people, obviously it's a lot of money to ask people to give, so I'm happy with what people do to contribute to the channel. So. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I recommended for the settings. I usually just go with that. That benchmark does have a lot of pop-in from what I've seen in the past with it. So now I could go into the settings here and kind of tweak it down a bit to push the frame rates higher. Oops. You hit the wrong key here. Let's go with the mouse. Well, it's interesting, in GTA, you can actually set the output monitor too. So if you did want to turn off your other thing, you could do that. So we could turn off the stuff here. there's a lot we can tweak. That's one thing with these games. There's so much stuff you can tweak on them. That's why I always start with the GeForce settings and kind of work it from there. So yeah, you know, so it is what it is. But I think it's running pretty nicely there, so that's pretty cool. So let's go pop out of here. I'm going to do a little bit more with that when I do the main thing. So I got to start thinking about getting dinner ready for the family in a few minutes here. So let me go exit out of game here. John Richardson says, "Don't do live streams against Twitch showtimes." Yeah, they're on all the time though. It's I guess it would be hard to do that. So what I like to do is these things are fun for me because you know, I think if you want to do live streams correctly, you got to do what Twit does, which is come up with a rundown and have producers and get a really, you know, have real content put together. So I would like to do that one day. What's nice is that what I'm doing now is this is what I would normally do before I do a video. And I thought it's kind of fun just to do a live stream of this, especially when I'm trying out something I haven't really played with before, because oftentimes, and this has been helpful today, a lot of you have read about this more than I have or have some suggestions, so it's really helpful to do these things. I haven't done one in a while, so I really like doing these things. Yeah, you know what's funny is this notion of hanging out with a creator is kind of a new thing, right? I mean, I went to college, and you know, TV production was not a major or minor of mine, but I took about 2 or 3 classes of production, and it was always about being organized and you know, getting, you know, not wasting time. And part of it was that there wasn't a lot of time. There was a very huge scarcity of distribution that has gone away because the distribution now is free, so you can do stuff that's longer form like this. So it's been a lot of fun. I think we had about 137 or so at the max of this stream. I think people wanted to see if this would even work. So we're now down to about 82 or so. So we're still hanging on. We'll try Doom out. I wish I had time to play all these games. I've been playing in my spare time. Now I actually have spare time again, which is nice because I am doing this full time. I've been playing a lot of Zelda on the Switch, and the Switch is one of those things that it's like, you know, until you try it, you don't get it, you know. And now I get it. What am I doing here? I'm going to go into the arcade mode real quick, and go over to where's my mouse? Hook up my mouse here, and we'll do a little Doom here. Where did that thing go? This is one of my USB Type-C adapters that I've got hooked up to this thing here. Let's get this thing there. I've been collecting USB Type-C adapters, as I mentioned earlier, because you can never have enough of them. So let me pop back over to the screen here so you can see what's going on. Turn the mouse on. And I haven't touched the settings yet on this either, so we'll see if this has any bearing. Yeah, Tony, I think I might come back and do something with the MacBook, because I got to spend. That's going to take a little bit more time, and you know, to some degree, I'm not sure what the benefit will be necessarily on the Mac, because the games don't run as well on the Mac as they do on the other side on Windows. But I might try it with the. You know what I might do is I might hook it up to my big MacBook Pro 15. And just repeat what we did earlier with the testing here to see how that works. This is running really nice. Now, I haven't tweaked the settings yet, so let me pull up the settings here so you can see what's going on. These monsters here. This is running super fast. So let's go in and look at the settings real quick. Video. We're running. Here's all the basics and the advanced settings. Yes, it's got everything down pretty low here. So let's go back and pop back to desktop and have GeForce do our optimize that sucker. There we go. Now let's see what that does to the frame rate. It'll probably improve the image quality, but we'll lose some frame rate in the process. Yeah, what I was talking about with the iPad is that when I first got the iPad, it didn't, like, I was interested in it, and it wasn't until I actually picked it up and used it that I understood the device. And I think that's what the Switch is for a lot of gamers, is that once you pick it up and realize that when you want to leave the room and go sit somewhere else, you can just take it off the thing and it just keeps going with you. It's pretty cool. And it works great. You know, that notion of switching back and forth really does function quite well on it. I've been really, really impressed with it. So we're going to let this run here for a second. I think what I'm going to do, I'll do one more thing, which is I'm going to shut down in a second. I'm going to go get my Mac upstairs, my 15-inch MacBook Pro, and I'll boot it up into Windows, and maybe we'll try to see how much time I have. I have a little bit of time, so I might be able to squeeze that out before, because I think getting the Mac to work with this GPU on the Mac side is going to prove to be a separate project, because I was just reading the scripts to get it run and everything else. So that's going to be an issue, I think. All right, so now it looks like it just locked up on me. Let's see if it's just loading. I think we locked up the computer. Yep, we got a lockup. That's it. All right, so let's, no, it's still, the computer's not locked. It's still functioning. So let me, let's go to the task manager real quick and see what's happening here. So Doom is responding. So let's go back in and see, maybe it's just loading. There we go. That was weird. Must have been loading. All right, here we go. Now these are with the recommended settings. So the image looks a lot better, and it's still, this game is like super fast. And it still looks great. It looks better actually, but it's still running really fast here. You can see the frame rate in the upper left-hand corner. So that's super good. Very nice. And you can do your little maneuver here with the, what was it, Command E? Or was it R maybe? I forgot what button it was to push. Let's see, it's the F. I mean, F. There we go. So there we go. You knocked the guy out there. Okay. Pretty cool. Good stuff. That is working really nicely. So I'm impressed with this. I'm really surprised. I mean, you know, again, we're running off of a, so this laptop is about $800, the one that they let us borrow, but it has the Thunderbolt port, and that is how this whole thing works. We've got this hooked up via Thunderbolt, and you're getting, you know, really fast graphics on here, really good stuff. So I think what I'm going to do now is just take a quick break, and I'm going to come. I'll leave the stream going. Let me pull up my thing here. So I'm going to leave the stream running here. I'm just going to take a quick break and go get my Mac. We're going to shut down the Windows computer now, and then boot my Mac up into Windows so that we can try out how this might work. Because I really just want to run the TimeSpy benchmark on the Mac to see what kind of performance differences we get. And let's see, a couple more questions here. The loudness of the case isn't bad. I'm hearing the case fan much more than the GPU fan. So it is a bit noisy. I would liken it to, if you had a gaming PC, it'd probably be about what that gaming PC would be like. It's definitely a utilitarian case. As you can see, it's really nothing fancy. They just made a box big enough to house everything. Yeah, Doom's getting a little wacky when it's switching menus here. Like if I go out and then go back in, then it's back up. It's weird. This may not totally like the eGPU thing going on here. So let's exit. Yes. And then we're going to shut down real quick. And of course, it's going to update and shut down, right? So update and shut down, which doesn't matter. We'll just let that run for a second. So I'm going to go run upstairs and grab the Mac, and we're going to boot into Windows real quick, and then I will be right back. So if those of you in the chat, my mic's going. If those of you in the chat want to entertain yourselves, and when other people come in and say, "Where is he?" You can tell them I went upstairs for a second to go get the other computer. So I will be right back, everybody. Stay tuned. All right, I'm back, everybody. So what we're going to do now is move the Windows PC out of the way and get the Mac in here. And I'm not going to do the OS X stuff yet because I think that's going to require some additional work that I don't have as much time for tonight. So I'm going to now just disconnect the Windows PC here. And I hear my dog upstairs. I may have to go get the dog outside for a second. So let me disconnect all this stuff here. And we'll move the Windows PC out of the way. And again, this was a Lenovo 720 that we tested. Very good performance with the eGPU on this one. Again, it has to have a Thunderbolt port. The Mac, of course, has a lot of Thunderbolt ports, 4 of them. And what I'm going to do here is get my Windows drive installed. Now, my understanding is the left side of the Mac, this side, is where you want to attach everything to. So that's what we're going to do here when I reboot. So let's go do the boot camp thing. I'm also going to want to hook up the power adapter, which is over here too. So let me do that real quick. Get some power over to this guy. One of the nice things about the Mac now with all these ports on it is that you can connect it up to different sides of the laptop, although, you know, it's going to have to just go run with it this way. All right, and then we're going to plug in. Actually, you know, I don't think I'm going to need the other USB-C thing here. So we're going to leave this side freed up. Because all we're going to do is run the benchmark on the Mac here just to see how it works. So I'm going to log off the Mac here. And we're going to go into Windows. Now what I have here is my Windows to Go stick. And if you watched my video, I took Windows and installed it on this external drive, so I don't have to use any of my internal stuff. So it may be a little slower, but it seems to work fine. And what you do is you hold down the Option key when the Mac comes up. And for whatever reason, Apple decided that their Mac shouldn't make any noise anymore when they boot, so you never know when it's actually coming up. But I can just go over here to select my EFI boot option, and up it will come. Now, we will have to download the drivers from NVIDIA again, which I will do. And the big question is, how will the NVIDIA and AMD GPUs on this thing, how will they interface? Will it work? Because I have the higher end, I think it's the 460 on this one. So I'm eager to see how this plays out here. What's funny is Windows actually runs faster on here than it does on the Mac side of things. Actually, I will need to plug in this drive. Let's see. Maybe what I'll do is, let's see what happens here. I'm going to see if maybe I have the 3D Mark already installed on this thing. I may already have it installed. If not, I'll just install it while we're doing the other stuff. All right, so let's take more questions here as we're going. So yes, we earlier when TDayKyo was asking about the monitor's connection. So yes, the monitor is connected directly to the box. And what we found was that by default, the driver for the NVIDIA graphics card was actually putting the video back over to the internal display on the Windows laptop. So that cut our performance down a pretty good amount. So when we disabled the internal display, then things got faster. So that was definitely something we learned. And you do have to take a step to disable that second display to make it work. All right, so let's see. So David Reed's asking about VR. Yeah, the performance I'm seeing out of this is pretty similar, at least on that Lenovo laptop, to what I saw with the i3 machine that I tested earlier. So graphics-wise, it's definitely up to par. However, everyone's performance is going to be a little different depending on how your Thunderbolt port is configured. So it may be enough, and it might not be, and you won't really know. I think what I would suggest people do is go over to eGPU.io, because what they have on there is a really helpful set of just experiences with different computers and what kind of performance people are seeing. So before you go out and buy something, you'll know whether or not your laptop has a Thunderbolt port that's fast enough. Because I guess some computers are not working as well as others are doing. So you'll need to bear that in mind. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just going to go proactively grab the GeForce drivers. So let's kind of repeat the process that we did before. GeForce drivers, actually. So let me go grab those real quick. I don't usually use Edge, by the way, but it's just I never got around to putting. I just didn't boot up Chrome for some reason. Don't ask me why. 1070 Windows 10 64-bit. So start the search, and we'll download the driver. Grab that driver. Okay, so let that go. I'm installing 3D Mark while we're going here also, so let that driver come down. There might be a reboot involved at some point here as well. We'll wait for that driver to download, and then we'll continue onward here. Oh, I didn't realize that. Sudo NVRAM boot audio. So I guess it can make boot audio. I need to do that. I got to get that going. Yeah, so here's the thing. I would strongly suggest that you go to that eGPU.io site and look up what you're thinking of getting to make sure that it's going to work. Because I think there's going to be some variety of experiences with this as it's going here. So, and my download is going slow because I'm just going to install 3D Mark directly on here. So we'll see what goes on there. Thank you, David Reed, for your contribution. Very much appreciated. I've got a lot of coffee to fuel me up for the next one that I'm going to do. I may not do another live stream until the end of the weekend because I have my wife's going away with her sisters, so I've got both kids for the weekend. So I've got 2 more videos in the can, so I've got enough to get us through the rest of the week, and I'm going to try to shoot something on this in the morning. So I'll have this one up. Hopefully, I like it. Like my Saturday night one is like my big video, so I'm trying to get this thing ready for Saturday. So. But she's leaving Friday, so I have Friday afternoon. So I got to hustle in the morning to get all that done. Well, that's interesting. Astifu was getting an ad on that. I didn't realize it even played ads. I could play an ad right now if you want. I got a button here. I could say run an ad. Now, I've never seen an ad when I watch a live stream before. Yeah, this Enclosure is half the price of the Razer one. I think the Razer one's like $500. This one's $279, and I think the compatibility is better on this one, at least from what I'm reading. So I've been very pleased with this so far, at least with that Lenovo. That's the thing. I was like, because what happens with these things, everyone complains they don't have GPUs, and they really, you can get one in there, but you get like the 940MX or something, but it is a very small device. It's very lightweight. And where I think this is a potential solution, I mentioned this earlier, is that if you're going to college and you want to have something thin and light that you can carry around with you, but you want to play some games when you get back to your room, for example, this can act as like one huge docking thing that gives you the video acceleration. And if you have an external display already hooked up there, you can just use that as you go. So it'd be pretty useful. All right, the driver's taking forever to download. There we go. Now, so I think my Steam thing is done, so now it's picking up the pace a little bit. Let's take a few more questions here. Yeah, Razer's an interesting company. It's when you think about like the cost of things, especially in the gaming space, a lot of what goes into the cost of some of this name brand gaming gear, and this goes for just about anything, I guess, but there's a huge marketing expense that these companies are doing. And it's not just the advertising, it's the free, the free product has value. This stuff isn't cheap to make. So they spend a lot on marketing, which goes back into the cost of the product. So you get something like the Akitio here that has no marketing that I could see. They got some good press from some of the tech blogs and stuff, but this is $279 versus whatever that one costs. So this Enclosure, Lamar is asking, only has room for 1, and I don't know if this would have, the Thunderbolt connection would have the bandwidth to support 2. just given the fact that you're limited to, I believe it's 32 gigabits per second over the cable, because you could have 2 slots in here, but your bandwidth is limited by by the Thunderbolt connection. Although theoretically, you could. No, maybe, I don't know. I guess you probably would want to have everything in one, but you could maybe do a aggregate thing where you have 2 connections going back to the computer or something. But I think at the moment it's going to be 1 GPU per customer. All right, so that's done. So I got the driver downloaded. So I'm going to repeat what I did before, which is just plug in the darn thing in. So let's go pop this thing into one of my free Thunderbolt slots there. All right, and now you can see the fans are coming to life here. We plugged it in. And let's go to the device manager and see what we're getting here. Yep, it's exactly what happened before. So now that that is there, I'm going to go over to my downloads here, and we're going to just install the NVIDIA driver. And we'll see what we get here. So let's close out of this stuff. It's always good when the magic smoke doesn't come out. And by the way, this thing has a an actual enclosure to it. I don't know what the TDP is of this Mac. And again, the Mac here is running in Windows. I'm going to try the Mac stuff out a little later. There's a whole scripting thing involved. I'm trying to figure out like how to even best show how the Mac would benefit from this in its native mode, because a lot of the Mac apps I don't think are really, especially the ones I use like Final Cut, are not really tuned for the NVIDIA stuff. All right, so we're checking compatibility. Thank you, Marius, for the answer to that question. That was something people were curious about. All right, and the installation failed. This happened last time also, so I think I need to reboot. So let me do that real quick. Hold down my Option key here. So when I have the Mac, I guess even if you were doing boot camp, you do the same thing. You hold down the Option key before the Mac boots back up, and then you'll have a choice of what to use. And Win, thank you for never skipping ads. That is very helpful to the channel, because these days you can use all the ad revenue you can get. Believe it or not, I'm going to be on a podcast with this guy Dusty Porter, who's another creator, does a lot of tech stuff, and we were talking about this morning. He and I have not seen any reduction in ad revenue like some of the other creators are seeing, primarily because our content is technically family friendly. We don't do a lot of any raunchy humor on my show, because if I tried humor, it would not be funny. Looks like my Mac is not happy at the moment. It's kind of frozen here. Hopefully it comes back. We'll give it a second. If this doesn't work, I'm going to reboot without the Thunderbolt connected. I always hate pulling the plug on stuff when I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But I think it's locked up. Oh. Yeah, it's kind of locked up. Well, not completely, but it's not doing anything. When I was a kid playing with the old PCs, my way of testing if it was locked up would be whether or not the caps lock key lit up or not. So I was doing the caps lock here. It is lighting up, but the Apple kind of runs on its own. I'm going to pull that out. Let me try this again. And I'll just turn off the Mac and turn it back on again. Thank you, Astifu. Much appreciated for your contribution. And Zam is wondering if I'm going to have a T-shirt made. And I am, as a matter of fact, because I spoke with somebody the other day who could make a design for it. And I was trying to figure out the best, what the T-shirt should say. I'm thinking of, like all the opinions are my own or something, or I don't know. I'll have to come up with some ideas. I'm going to have an artist work on it for me, and I think some people would like to have T-shirts. I want to also find an international capable fulfillment thing for it also, because I want, 60% of my audience is outside the U.S., so I want to be able to make sure that you can all get one if you want it. Hopefully my Mac decides to come back on. Not having it beep is real. I got to turn that thing on and make it beep again. There we go. All right, so we're going to boot up now. I'm not going to plug it in until it comes back up. I might be pushing the limits here because I am running Windows right now in an on-the-go thing where I have it running off an external drive, so that might be contributing to the problem here on the Mac. All right, so we're back up here. Let me log in real quick and we'll see if this works. The GPU in the Akitio box is a PNY 1070. This is their Accelerate, in case you're curious. So let's take that cable out. We're going to plug it back in again and see if it'll detect it properly this time. We had a similar issue happen before, which was the NVIDIA driver crashed when I first tried to install it, and then I rebooted, and then things were better. So let's see if it picked it up this time. I would imagine the behavior here will be similar, just given that we are on a Windows PC, essentially. All right. Device manager. Yeah, so now the display, oh, it's not even picking it up this time. How about that? It's like, let me reboot the, I wonder if this thing locked up. It's completely, like the controller on it locked up. So let's, thank you, Keyburn, for your contribution. I really, that's very nice, thank you. I think the super chat thing has been awesome. Because not everyone wants to do the Patreon, and it's just nice to have options for people to support their creators, which is great. And I'm thankful for all of you who have been contributing tonight. All right, let's see. Yeah, now it's not picking it up at all. So let me try the other port here. Yeah, so now it's not working at all. I wonder if I did something to it here. Yeah, this is a new thing that Keyburns talk about, the super chats. A new thing that YouTube implemented, and it's been great. It really is it's a pretty easy thing for viewers and friction-free, and it helps your creators too. It's a good thing that they've done. Yeah, you know, I'm not even seeing like the Thunderbolt thing on here anymore. Let's do a search here. Usually there's like a Thunderbolt control panel. I'm not getting that on here now. All right, well, let me try to install those drivers again and see if it detects it when we do a refresh one more time here. Action. Yes, it's not picking it up. And this has worked for other people, so that's what's so weird about this, is that, yeah, I'm just going to install this again. I'm just going to do this, try this one more time, and then I'm going to probably call it quits for today, because I got to get ready for the kids who are coming home shortly. So let's see what happens. Yeah, professional commenters talks about it's not available on iPhone. Yeah, I don't think it's on, maybe it might be on Android, the super chat, but I'm not sure. And I do this quite a bit also, the super chat, when my favorite creators are on. I like to spread the love. Because, you know, it's funny, you hear some YouTubers complaining about how hard work this is, and it really is. I don't think people realize that you need to really have the energy and the time. And, you know, when I was working a full-time job and then coming home and, you know, doing all the family stuff and then putting the kids to bed, I mean, you're working into the wee hours of the night and then have to get up the next day to do it all over again. Yeah, it's not finding this thing at all now. Very strange. That was after a reboot, too. I'm hoping that I didn't just blow up the controller here. Let's see. Let's try one more port here and see if it picks it up again. Oh, something just changed. Okay, here we go. Yep. So now it sees it. So let me go and try to. Yep, now it's picking it up. So let me zoom in on the screen here so you can see what I'm looking at. I think we can try to install those drivers again. Macs are always finicky, especially when they're running Windows. Oops, sorry everybody. So that is what I'm seeing right now. So it sees it, which is good. Very good. That's what we want. Okay, so now I'm going to go over here and go back to my downloads, and then I'm going to install the driver one more time and see if it works. And it'll run that time spy test again, and then we'll call it quits for today. Yeah, one of the things with the Mac is, when it's in Windows, it works really well in Windows, but there's, this is hardware that's not really designed for Windows. And actually, one of the things that happened to my Mac, those of you who've been following me, when I got the MacBook Pro 15 around Thanksgiving, November, and I got it right when it came out, because my other one, it still works over there, it was 4.5, 5 years old, and it was just dogging on some of the remote video stuff that I was working on. Now it's saying, okay, I'll start later. And so when I finally got the Mac in, I got to reboot again. Sorry, everybody. When I finally got the Mac back in, or in for the first time, and I did the Windows thing, what happened was the audio driver in Windows was not tuned properly, and I kid you not, it blew out the speaker, like blew it out. And that was a big problem, obviously. And it completely distorted the speakers, and I couldn't get a replacement quick enough. And so I did a video on Thanksgiving morning. Thanksgiving is a big deal holiday here in the United States, if you haven't been following what we celebrate here. Because all denominations, like, it's not a religious holiday, it's like a real United States holiday where everybody celebrates it together. And so everyone's cooking upstairs, and I'm running downstairs like, I got to tell people about this, because I had just done a video about how to do it. And then when I was upstairs that morning just checking my email, like, the speakers blew up when I was in Windows. And turns out they had a bug in the driver that just drove the speakers too high and literally physically destroyed the speakers. And Apple was actually really helpful after the video got posted, because I already filed a tech support claim. I got a call to Friday, the next day, from Apple, and they said, hey, we'll do an advanced replacement for you. So just give us your credit card number, and we'll send one out. And then when you get it, you can send the other one back. So that was helpful, because I was going on a trip. I was actually going away, and I needed to take the computer with me. So that was a crazy thing, and it was loud. It almost sounded like something was arcing, like shorting out in the computer. But in fact, it was just the speakers just making a popping sound that just blew it up. It was insane. All right, so now we're back to where we were before. I gotta wait a second here for it to detect it again. It takes a little bit longer here on the Mac for it to find it. Jason, thank you very much for your contribution. And he says, nobody is paying for this donation, and nobody is viewing the amount given before it's given. That is a great disclaimer. My kind of man. All right, let me go refresh this here. Yeah, so it's picking up all this stuff, the PCI Express downstream switch port, whatever that means. Yeah, it doesn't seem to like my Mac that much. I think I may, let's try it one more time here. Let me just go back and Windows was real easy on the Windows computer, but the Mac is like, I don't think so, not today. So we do the other port. I'm going to switch ports now and see if it likes that one better. Otherwise, I may switch it off and switch it back on again. Yeah, so the experience on the Mac here is not as smooth as it was on the Windows computer. But this also speaks to, by the way, the challenges of this technology, because as we've seen now with a bunch of other USB Type-C devices, that was a good noise. Okay, we're getting some acknowledgement now. There we go. I reset the controller again. Things behave differently. Even though it's a standard, things behave differently depending on the computer you're using. So this is not a surprise to me. All right, so now we've got it here, so that's working. So now I'm going to go back and install the driver one more time and see if we can get all the GeForce stuff working on this thing now. So let's take a look here and install the driver. I think it's still doing something. let's go. Because I have yet to see anything on the screen, the big screen, that one right there. Because if it works, we will see something there because I've got the monitor hooked up to this directly. So I'm going to go in and install the NVIDIA driver one more time. And if this doesn't work, we're going to call it quits. And Jason also gave with his own funds. Awesome. And I also want me to remind everybody, this is a Japanese product, the Akitio. So it comes from a Japanese company. Yeah, I've got all the drivers updated on the Mac here. The Apple Boot Camp drivers are pretty up to date. And other people have been doing this. And I think if there is an issue, it could just be the fact that I'm using Windows to Go on here, which might be contributing to it. Yeah, it's just not working. Yeah, graphics driver could not find compatible graphics hardware. Maybe I got the wrong driver. Let me find one more driver on here. See, this is what I was expecting to have happen on the Windows computer, but that was a plug and play thing. So maybe I got the wrong thing. So we got to go to 1070. We have Windows 10. We'll do a search for that. And let's try this one. I think I might have downloaded the wrong driver before. That could be why. Let's go back to my downloads folder here. No, I'm downloading the same thing I downloaded before. Oh, you know what? I had the Windows 7 driver before. That might have had something to do with it. Never mind. Professional commenter wants to know, is Mac OS decent? Yeah, I do like it a lot. And actually, well, now my recommendation is for people. So for people that, let's rewind the clock like 8 years. And for family members that needed a computer, and I was worried about them getting junk on their computer. It used to be just the adware, now it's malware. I always got people, or recommended people buy a Mac because the longevity and the maintenance was a lot lower, in that you had a far less chance of getting infected. Not because the computer necessarily was any more secure, but it was on an operating system that was not as popular. So my sister-in-law, she got a MacBook, whatever it was, when she started college, and it got her through the whole 4 years. She dumped a latte on it by accident, and that thing still worked. That thing was a workhorse. And what I found, just as the family IT guy, is that I got a lot less calls when I put a Mac in a family member's hand versus a Windows computer. So that was what I went with. And I used the Mac as my daily driver, partly because I used Final Cut Pro, which is my video editing software. And I still build PCs now that I have the channel, but I used to build my own PCs all the time. And I spent a lot of time just trying to get the thing to work and then keep it working. And when I went to the Mac, what was nice about it was that because a lot of the things that I do to earn a living now depend on the computer working when I need it to work, I found that the Macs just worked a lot better. And they last longer in the sense that they just don't fall apart as easily as some of the other ones that I've used do. And the Windows PCs have caught up a lot. But a great example is my MacBook Pro Retina that I got in 2012. I got almost 5 years out of it. It was great. So I'm really pleased with the Mac. And I respect Windows, and I respect Android and all the other stuff. But just because I want things to work, that's why I went there. I think we're making progress now, because instead of telling me I'm not compatible at all, it's saying I'm checking your compatibility. That's a good step in the right direction here. Recipe Bob wants to pay off Jason to make another contribution. And Caroline, yeah, it's funny. When I look at these platform wars like iOS versus Android and that kind of thing, when I was a kid, it was Commodore versus Apple versus IBM. There's always like this thing about the platform that you choose. And I'll admit, I was part of that for a while. I was like, hey, my Apple II doesn't have you type anything in before you load up a game on it. I was one of those people. But now that I'm older, I'm like, who cares? If it works for you, it's great. And I'll say this much, that the Windows hardware has really caught up with where everything else is. And I think that, to a large extent, was probably why Microsoft spent so much on the Surface stuff, because they're not selling, dramatically better perhaps than other computers, but I think they've pushed the industry to start improving the quality of the hardware. I've seen a lot of that. But now, by the way, so now my family recommendation now, for the most part, is a Chromebook. I got my mother a Chromebook. Never hear from her about everything else, but never about the computer. So if the family member doesn't need anything but web browsing and some basic stuff, the Chromebooks are great. I've been really pleased with that. All right, so we are getting the graphics driver installed. So the plan here, folks, is we're going to get this graphic driver installed, and then I'm going to call it quits for the night because I got to start cooking dinner, and I'm hoping that I can get down here in the morning and at least do the first portion of this with using this with a Windows PC, and then next week talk about using it on the Mac. I think I'll do a two-parter here, because I think the Mac is going to be a very different, not the Mac running Windows, but the Mac running whatever it is. The Mac running Mac with the graphics card. Yeah, and what I do on Windows 10, because I do have Windows 10 computers, I use the Microsoft Defender as my virus thing, but I am very careful about what I do online, and I always run the updates. And I'll tell you what, we had, at my old job, we had an issue with PC was running XP. It was like one of these computers that you have running somewhere that you forgot about, and somebody was on there on his lunch break looking up, it was an innocuous thing. He was on like a forum for his motorcycle, and there was some malware embedded inside an ad. This is when Yahoo had all those issues through their ad network, and what do you know? Infected. And man, that thing was one of those encryption deals, the ransomware. And thankfully, like, one of the things that I was very adamant about when I worked there was, constant reminders to employees, like, do not click on anything, even if it looks like it's something you were expecting, it probably isn't. If your computer ever feels weird at all, I don't care if just call me. I'm gonna be perfectly fine if you call me and tell me your computer's acting up, because, I'd rather have the call and have it be nothing than it be something. And we had 2 incidents where viruses got through through ads. The ransomware one was more significant, and thankfully he called us, and I ran down and we pulled the network cable out first before we shut the computer down, because it actually had gotten up to the file server and started encrypting files on there. And thankfully it was working in alphabetical order, and nothing important was in the higher level of the alphabet there. But wow, that was scary. Let me take a few more comments on here. So the computer is back up, by the way. This time it actually rebooted and didn't lock up on me, so that was good. All right, so we have the driver installed, but I am not getting any video out of the NVIDIA card. So now we need to go to the NVIDIA control panel. Now, what's different about the Mac versus the other computer we were looking at, or using, was that the other computer had just the basic Intel graphics. This one has an AMD GPU built into it. Now, it didn't find the cards. I'm going to pop this cable out and pop it back in again and see if it picks it up now. What it is doing, though, is it is keeping the NVIDIA software built in here. So if it picks it up now. Yeah, so now it's not picking up the thing. Oh, wait, it just disappeared. Let's see. The NVIDIA driver just crashed, so that might be a good thing, or maybe not. Let's take a look here. Yeah, the Mac is not as happy about this as I was hoping it would be. Yes, we're back to it not working correctly. Let's see. Huh, this device cannot find enough resources that it can use. I'm going to kill power to it again and see if that helps. Let's see. And let's see if it pops back up on the list here of drivers. And it doesn't seem to like the upper port on this one. Like, so you've got, on the Mac, you've got, you can't really see it right now, but you have 4 Thunderbolt ports on it. It doesn't seem to like the topmost one on the left. So I'm going to pull this out and put it in the lower one, because that's what got everything working last time. So let's see if that does better. All right, so now let's come back up again. And the control panel thing like disappeared. Oh, something's happening. I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but I have no video, and the computer looks like, yep, just rebooted. So got your BSOD, whoever was looking for that. Let's try it again one more time here. So I think what I'll be doing in the review is reminding people to check out that eGPU.io site to be very mindful of what might occur here. All right, so let's see what happens on the Windows side now. But I will try out the Mac installation with this and see if it will do anything for us in OS X. It requires a lot of driver installation and some stuff I'm not going to have enough time to do right now. So let me go and... I actually think this, you guys tell me, I think it might do better to have this as a two-parter, one with Windows, one with the Mac. I think that might be the better way to do it anyhow. All right, so we are back to the Windows desktop here, and I'm going to go back and see if it is picking up the thing. Device Manager. Yeah, it's still giving me that error there. Oh, something's happening. I did see a display flutter for a second, as you all saw. But I don't think we are in good shape here. Yeah, so the NVIDIA driver is not even showing up on here again. Yeah, so I think I need to do some more research on Windows Boot Camp and this thing. I'm going to try one last thing. I'm only seeing the AMD settings here too. I'm only seeing one display. Yeah, so let me reboot it one more time. So let me take a few more questions here that I missed. Oh, now it's working. Well, that's bizarre, huh? Okay, so now we've got some stuff going on here. So I do have some output. Now it's not at 1080p yet, so let's go in. Yeah, now it seems like it's functioning okay. But I don't have my NVIDIA stuff loaded up here. Let's see if it'll force that driver to load up. I want that NVIDIA, here it is, the NVIDIA control panel is open. All right, so. Okay, so we got it. All right, so let's go and change the resolution here. It doesn't know what it's plugged into. Look at that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's what we want. We're going to go 1920 by 1080. Apply. And all right, I think that looks okay. Yeah, we're good. All right. And it looks like it is doing what it did before, which is mirroring the GPU back through the Thunderbolt cable. Yeah, it's doing exactly what it did before. So I think what I'll do now is we'll go over to, where did we do that before? Did we do it on, we did it on the Windows settings. It looks like it took over from the AMD GPU and just turned it off. So I'm going to go over to our display here and we'll say only show on 2, which should turn the Mac display off. Yep, just like it did before. Now we're going through the Thunderbolt thing now. So now we know it's definitely through the Thunderbolt. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to Steam and we're going to run that benchmark one more time and see how that works. And then I got to go take the dog out and get ready for dinner because it always starts working right when I'm running out of time. So let me just log in real quick here. Oops. Wow, the scales at your grocery store are running Windows 2000. You know, that's an issue too. Is the embedded Windows stuff? Is that those things don't get updated because nobody's thinking to do that, and that's why there's so many places for people to get in. And when you can get in on the scale, you can start, you know, messing around inside the network with other exploits, and that's my biggest fear for anybody. Because like with our thing, it was just the one computer we hadn't thought about. We should have, but it was the one that did it in. All right, so we'll go do Time Spy again here. We'll go run this, and we'll see how this works. I got to go back through the chat log here because somebody was thankfully keeping all the stuff for me as far as the scores we got before. Actually, if anybody in the chat is still here, if they could post the scores we got last time, that would be really helpful. I kind of remember what they were. I'm going to run them again just for my final testing, but that would be really helpful. Don't worry about the blue thing. It does change the resolution every time it runs the test, so that's not a big deal. It's loading up the test, so it's gonna just take a second, hopefully, for it to cycle. If not, I'll just give you a screen view here. All right, here we go. And I'm just gonna go check on the dog while this is running, so I will be right back, everybody. All right, looks like it's still running, so that's a good thing. So tonight for dinner, I got to check my Blue Apron thing that I'm doing. I've been doing it now for like about 2 months, and it's been nice because I like to cook, but I never really cooked before because I didn't like doing all the grocery shopping, so it's been really convenient. And they're not sponsoring the channel; they sponsor everybody else, but not me. But tonight we're going to be doing hoisin glazed chicken with sesame noodles and spicy marinated cucumber. So that looks good. You can see the recipe. This is what it's supposed to look like when I'm done. That's what I'm doing tonight. So that should be fun. And when I let the dog outside on the deck, this wasp flew in. So now after I'm done with you all, I got to go kill the wasp. We have bees and wasps and ticks, all sorts of wildlife. It's a crazy environment. I almost wonder, this looks like we're getting about the same frame rate we got on the Lenovo earlier. And I wonder if, really, like, what's the maximum GPU you could really benefit from here, given the amount of data that it has to push through. So Asifu, this is just devised for the benchmark. 3D Mark is free on the mobile platforms, and then I think there's a free version on Steam. I did the paid version because I use it. What I like about it is that it's something that's consistent. There's no settings to set. I just run it, and I run it on every PC that I test. And I've been running it for so long now that I've got a lot of data from prior stuff that I've run on it. So, and you know what? My thing with benchmarking is, I run them because it's helpful to get some context for things, but I try to do as much real-world applications as possible because I think there's greater value to that for viewers to actually see it working. Will this run something that a normal person would run? Like these tests are designed to like push hardware in ways that are not typically done in a game many times. Some games really push it, but so it's coming back up. It's just my scaler's catching up with the display. Here you go. Ghost Recon Wildlands on the AMD GPU. I gotta check that one out. Well, that's a good idea. Put the bug zapper next to the wasp nest. That might work. So Tom's wondering what watch I have. It's an Apple Watch. There is no Lon.TV cookbook available just yet. I'm getting there, hopefully at some point. I think Lazy Game Reviews has a cooking channel now. Thanks, Delia, for the scores. That's helpful because we'll at least have a context here when this one's over with. Because really the only difference between the Lenovo that we just looked at, well, there's a couple differences. So this Mac is a Skylake i7 quad core. So we'll see a better score on the CPU side, and I'm curious to see if the the Mac's somewhat better specs make a difference in graphics performance. I have a feeling we're going to see the same. It's really limited to the graphics card. VSync tearing it's a combination of things. It's due to the fact that you're watching at 30 frames per second and I'm running it through a scaler and all this other crazy stuff. So it's a little different than it might be on a screen. But really what these things are designed to do is see how many frames per second can be generated. You'll notice here now we have the i7 CPU. We're getting probably double the frame rate we had earlier on this portion of the test. This is a very CPU intensive component of the test here. So let that finish up. Definitely some heat coming out of this case too. Probably from the power supply. No, maybe it's the GPU's heat. It could be. Okay. So it's done, and now we'll get the score. So the score is, I'm waiting for it to update on your screen here for you, so I'll switch back over to it. And it is almost back. Almost there. It's like, here, I'll just zoom in on it so you can see it. Let me do it. Okay, so here is the score. Oops. 5,145, which is better than we had on the Lenovo. So the Lenovo was 4,039, and we have on here, now what's of interest here is, that's why I'm getting a FreeSync warning, probably because it sees the AMD thing on there. So this is definitely running from the NVIDIA GPU. So the frame rate on the first test is 36 frames per second. I think we got like 33 or so before, so in the margin. I think the second graphics test is identical to what we had on the first one, very close if not identical. The CPU, and this is why we got a better score, is the CPU is a lot faster on this Mac. We got a quad-core i7. So now what I'm going to do on my phone here, you can't see this, but I'm going to tell you what we got with this exact same GPU on a desktop, an i3 desktop that we built, also Skylake. That one came in at 4,818. The graphics scores line up pretty decently here. So 38 frames per second on graphics test 1 versus 36. 33 on the i3 desktop build versus 31. And 7.75 frames per second on the i3 desktop build The faster processor on the Mac running in the i7 quad-core gave us 12. So 7 on the i3 desktop for the physics test, 12 on the other ones. So that is the deal. So this is working consistently. And it also tells us that the PCI Express lanes on the Lenovo are full blast. We're getting the full speed because we are seeing the same performance on the Thunderbolt connection than as we saw on the i3 desktop computer with the card installed in it. So this is delivering, a comparable performance to what it would be if we had all this stuff together in a case, I think. So this is really good. I think this is good stuff. So again, we are still running on the Mac here. Now, just by a point of comparison, if we look at the MacBook Pro on the same test with its internal GPU, because I did that test, we get this one, everybody, 9.6 frames per second on the internal GPU on the Mac. That is the AMD Radeon Pro 460. So that one got 9.6 frames per second versus 36, so a huge boost in performance there. 7.8 frames per second on the second graphics test compared to 3105 on that one. So let me just go back to my thing here. So significant performance boost over its internal GPU as expected. And again, we're doing this through an external adapter here. And we're getting about the same physics score on this. So that is the difference there. So it's pretty wild. So I'm going to just take a photo of this so I don't forget it, because I think it's going to be a very intriguing comparative here as we're going through. So good stuff. I am quite pleased with how all this worked out. So that is, I think that's going to do it for now. I'm going to try to shoot this and get this up, because I will say that this was, minus the little hiccup with the Mac, which I would expect on a Mac running Windows, this was a very easy thing to get working. And there's really not too many pitfalls involved with it either. So I think I'll do a test with the Lenovo, but I will also bring up the Mac in the review, because it just gives you an idea as to what you can expect for differences. But I think the 1070 is a good match for this. And you know what? While we're here, before I go, maybe I'll try the Steam VR benchmark real quick, because people were asking about that also. And I gotta go find that again. Software. Back in the store here, because that was something people were asking about, and I'm pretty sure you will get there now, because we have this thing. Let's try the VR performance test real quick and just install that. Oh, got it already. It's already working. Perfect. Oh, I got to download it again. It's 4 gigabytes to download it. It's amazing how fast these things come down on my connection here. So we'll try that out. But I have a feeling that'll work. So let's just let that run real quick and see what we do. I don't believe the i5 Mini has GPS. Yeah, I don't. That's a good point on Gordon Ramsay. He swears a lot. He's not going to be advertiser friendly. That is it. Hey, Jeffrey Cunningham is here. Yeah, I think I set my stream up so you can rewind if you want to see the whole process play out. And what I might do if I get time is I'm recording this locally. I'll probably chop up the video and do a quick little rundown there as well. I was waiting for the Steam VR thing to download. And I got to get moving here because they're going to be coming home soon. Yeah, the 13-inch will perform differently than this one will. And that's the thing. It's going to be different on every computer that you test it on. So I think what I'm going to do in this, because I think the market for something like this would be, I brought this up before, but I think it's worth talking about again. I think somebody who wants this and wants that. That's the market. I don't know if you're, and maybe if you've got a high-end MacBook or something, but the Mac drivers are out in beta, but it's not to a point where you're going to be doing your mission critical work with an eGPU on a Mac. I guess maybe unless you get the AMD one. So, in any event, but professional commenter, thank you very much for helping us out with the moderation today. That was great. I didn't have to worry about inappropriate comments, and it looks like people were pretty well behaved today, so thank you for your help. And we're almost done downloading the VR test, and we'll see how this comes together here. I'll probably rerun it on the Lenovo here too. All right, we're almost done. And I want to again thank everybody who super chatted today as well. It was very nice of all of you. And let me just go back over here. Somebody commented earlier, this kind of reminds me of the old days of Tech TV. I used to love Tech TV. I used to watch that. I didn't get it here, so it was only when I was traveling that I could watch it. So when I was visiting family in Florida, they had it there, and I would spend half the time watching Tech TV. They had some good stuff on. You know what was nice about Tech TV was that they didn't dumb down the content. It was really appropriate for everybody. You know, it was understandable, but I'm sure that in the back of my mind that's kind of drives what I do, because I really found that to be something that we really lost when they turned it into the video game channel. All right, so we're going to run the VR performance test now. So here it goes. And this one, I guess, runs in a window. Oops, I bet you I just screwed it up. I just moved the window over just so you can see it better. Let's see what happens. Now, I can't see this too well either, but it looks like we're getting about 130 frames per second. And I think the minimum is 90, so it looks like it's comfortably in the zone. I'm going to be very interested to see if the Lenovo can pull this off, and I think it will. So it would turn the Lenovo from something that's not even remotely VR capable into something that is. By the way, this is like one of the most fun little mini games in their VR thing, which is where you have to fix the robot. It's crazy. The whole floor like jumps away at you and everything else. It's wild. It looks like it's keeping up. Yeah, some of you might be coming in late, and if you did come in late, you can rewind back to the very beginning of this 2.5-hour monstrosity. But what we did in a pretty simple fashion, actually, was we took this thing out of the box, put this card in, and then plugged it into a Windows. Oh, I'm sorry, you just missed the whole thing. So what I did is we had this external GPU that it's an Akitio node. The link to it is in the description. About $279 for the case. We have a PNY Accelerate 1070 that, in full disclosure, they sent to the channel to review. I bought the enclosure here. And then we hooked it up via Thunderbolt 3, initially to this Lenovo Yoga 920 that was lent to the show from Lenovo, and they have a Thunderbolt port right there, so we plugged it into there, and it worked wonderfully. It really was cool. So that worked great. Now we've got my Mac running Windows. Oh, and the test is done. And look at that, everybody. You are VR ready, not even like close to capable. It is like ready. And it was not that way on its own GPU. So good stuff. So you could so if you want to do VR and you got a laptop with Thunderbolt, there you go. It's good to go. All right, so everybody, I'm glad you all enjoyed this. Thank you, Baron. He's a big fan. Thank you for coming in. And I am going to go take my dog for a walk. Actually, first I have to go find the wasp that is upstairs, because my daughter is terrified of bugs right now, and the last thing I want her to do is get stung by a wasp. So I have to go get my electric fly swatter out and take care of that thing. And you know what's funny with the wasps is that they take like 4 or 5 shocks to put them down. They're hardcore armored. It's crazy. So I'm gonna go deal with that. I'm gonna take the dog for a walk, and then I'm gonna probably shoot this tomorrow if I can. And we're going to talk about the Windows compatibility. And I'm actually going to focus on this Lenovo, because I think, again, this is where the market is for this. $800 laptop, you get this thing, and you got a gaming PC. So we're going to do that. And then I'll start playing around with the Mac as I'm juggling kids around over the weekend, and then do a follow-up the following week on that. So that is the deal. So it was good stuff. Now, if you can rewind back to the beginning if you want to see me install stuff. And yeah, 12 gauge will clear up that wasp problem. Yeah, that would, and then I got to spackle the walls afterwards. So I got one upstairs, but I'm going to save that one for invading critters that are of large size. So good. All right, so we're going to shut down here, and I am going to call it quits. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. It's always a risky endeavor when I do one of these live streams because you never know what's going to, like that, never know what's going to blow up on you. But this thing works great. I am impressed with this. I think if you want to, yeah, I'll definitely, David, redo the VR check on the Lenovo. I think, just given what we saw here, and again, check out that eGPU.io site. But if you want the ability to do this with your laptop and you've got a Thunderbolt 3 connection, I think it's going to work pretty well. So that is going to do it for me, everybody. I'm going to end the stream now. I want to thank everybody for your support and all the super chatters and everybody else and all of you who stuck with me for 2.5 hours. Thanks again, and I will be back again with another live stream at some point when we've got more stuff to do that's rather of interest. So that will do it, and thank you all for contributing, and thank you for those who moderated too. And we're going to call it a night and good evening. And I'm going to fade. I can fade the black on this thing, can't I? Let's see. Fade to, where's the? I can fade to. Where did it go? Huh. There used to be a fade to black option, but they changed my layout here, so I don't know where it is. Anyway, I'm just going to turn it off. I'll see y'all later. Good night.